Are there any elements of doing the overnights that you miss?
100%. Yeah. I missed that it was, I felt it was my space, not to knock BT or any partner,
Sure,
but
sure, sure.
there is a special bond that takes place during those hours that even though I only did it for a couple of years, it was something that I was familiar with from Beningo or Steve Summers doing it for years. So I miss that intimacy that you would have with the listener and the audience, the callers or whatever, who's up at that hour with you.
We're here with WFAN Sal Licata. Sal, you're fulfilling a little bit of a fantasy of mine right now to be hosting a show with one of WFAN's greats.
Glad I could help.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Oh my God,
No problem.
This is unbelievable. So cool.
Right, like we've hung out before, but not with microphones or cameras, so now it feels WFAN-y.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's exactly right. I'm sorry if the word fantasy made you feel uncomfortable,
No,
but that is. I've always. I mean, part of why we started to do this was because I grew up listening to WFAN, and I always loved being behind a mic, and I interned at the Fan, and I wanted to do the on-air thing, and that's WFAN is a big reason why this company I have exists, why this podcast exists, and it's awesome to have you here. So
Okay,
thank you.
No problem. I appreciate you inviting me.
Yeah. So, all right, we're gonna get into some fan stuff, some Met stuff. I want to start out with some basic questions, some biographical info.
Mm-hmm.
You're from Long Island. Where in Long Island are you from?
Grew up in Ronkonkoma, Long
Which
Island,
is where?
Suffolk County.
Okay.
But it's kind of like the middle of the island.
Okay.
It's about...
Us Westchester people don't. I don't. Long Island.
Okay.
There's like. There's
Well, you
like
familiar with the Hamptons?
Yes.
Okay.
There's
well,
like the Hamptons.
Yeah.
Of course, I know the Hamptons.
Yeah.
But I don't. Where's Ronkonkoma in relation to the Hamptons?
Yeah, basically in the middle. So it's in the middle of the island. So it's
Right.
about an hour and 10 minutes, maybe on a good day, to Montauk.
Got it.
About an hour. It's 50 miles from Manhattan. Maybe that gives you some. I forget the exact mileage from Montauk, but it's basically in the center of the island.
When you were living there, how long would it take you to get to the Fan?
Well, it depends. So when I was doing overnights at the Fan, it would be a little bit easier of a commute. Like going back home, I'd leave in the morning. I'd get off the air, I guess, right before the warm-up show with Al and Jerry, and I would be in my driveway as the open for Boomer and Gio were hitting. So that's a pretty good. I'm off the air at roughly 6 in my driveway. No, I'd be off the air at 5
yeah.
in my driveway right before 6. So about an hour, I'd say, with no traffic. Do the math, like 50 miles. So that's about right. But it was outside of the overnight commute. It was, especially after the pandemic, disastrous. It would take me sometimes 2.5 hours to get in or back.
So after the pandemic, it's been significantly worse?
Yes, no matter what time I found after the pandemic, because I also work at SNY.
Right.
So I used to leave my house, let's say 2 o'clock to be there for 4, and I'd get there way earlier. Even 2:30, I could leave 2:40, sometimes push it by 3, get there by 4:30. Post-pandemic, there's no way I could do that and get there on time.
I mean, all of you guys live far away. Gia lives far away.
Yeah.
Jerry lives far away. Al lives far away. I live up in Westchester, which is not that far away. I don't know what my question is. Like, is that exhausting? Like, is that?
Yes.
I would think that's very exhausting.
Yeah, the commute is probably, or was. I since
Right,
moved to
you moved to
Jersey,
Jersey,
in
yes.
part because of that. Like
Yeah.
I got moved to midday. There's no way I could commute in rush hour traffic on Long Island, and taking the train just wouldn't have been a good option because of my job after. It was just, I was doing it for a while, and it would take 2.5 hours, 3 hours each way. I could not function like that. So now it's a much easier commute. But yeah, I mean, a lot of the times, and Gio, they're working in the morning, so he's not hitting as much traffic leaving at the hours he does to get in. If you had a normal commute to get to where we get to from Long Island, disastrous.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Okay, so your teams, you and I both share the Mets, which is how we met down in Port St. Lucie a few
I remember
years
that.
ago.
In the clubhouse.
In the clubhouse, which is, for someone that doesn't get to be in the clubhouse that often, is so much fun.
Yeah.
You're a Falcons fan. What is the Atlanta connection?
So, well, actually, it starts with my grandfather used to watch the Braves. He grew up a Yankee fan, but when the Yankees were on MSG or the Mets were on Sports Channel and used to have to pay for that, he used to like to watch the Braves for free on TBS when they were getting good in the early 90s. So then I would watch some of the games with him, and Deion Sanders was like the most popular dual sport athlete back then.
The only dual sports athlete.
Well, I mean, Bo Jackson as well. But you know what I mean? Like, those guys were like,
Yeah.
Incredibly popular. So
Right.
I took a liking a little bit to the Braves, who were good, and then that kind of led to Dion, which kind of led to the Falcons, and then I had a starter jacket, and it just kind of snowballed from there.
Got it.
That's how that happened. Now, I'm since not as diehard a fan, but that's how, I mean, I was for a very long time.
Do you have any preference between the Giants or Jets, or it doesn't really matter?
No, it doesn't matter. I like rooting for stuff that I believe in.
Yeah.
So I want to see both teams do well because it's great for business and easier to talk about good content. Like the games for the Jets now are irrelevant, completely irrelevant.
Really?
The rest of the year. Yeah, and we're getting there with the Giants, even at 2-5 with Jackson Dart. If they don't start winning some more games, the games become irrelevant, and we love talking about games. So I root for both teams equally.
You know me. I'm a baseball guy.
Yeah.
I'm a golf guy. I like football. Football has never been my true love, but I sit there on Sunday and watch it, like with everyone else and do all the things. I can't remember the last time that I had been so affected emotionally by a football game like I was on Sunday with the Giants. I'm a Giants fan.
Yeah.
It has been a good decade plus, I would say, since that game was for a nonchalant football fan like myself, that was stark and quite disturbing as a Giants
Well,
fan.
it's a good thing to have those feelings again because that means the team's relevant, so you care. And the expectations may have changed not only going into the game, which you were excited about, but up 19-0 and having a big lead in the fourth quarter. But that's what being a sports fan is, pain a lot of times.
Crazy.
Yeah.
So my version of the Braves, I'm sorry, not of the Braves, of the Falcons in your case, for me would be the St. Louis Cardinals.
Okay.
I went to college out in WashU in St. Louis.
Okay.
When I was out there, I interned for KMOX.
Right.
I started a
Mike Shannon, right? Was the big play-by-play guy? Yeah.
I started a Cardinals blog website that I actually remember working on at WFAN during my internship.
Okay.
Where I got a bunch of college writers to write for free.
Mm-hmm.
And we had a semi, dedicated following.
Now, what years were these?
So this was between 2010 and 2014.
Okay, so some dark
were
years for the Mets.
Dark years for the Mets and very bright years for the Cardinals.
Right, okay.
I have some Mount Rushmore questions for you.
Okay, yeah.
But certainly my biggest baseball fandom moment, non-Mets, is being at Game 6 of the 2011 World Series and watching David Freese hit that big home run. So for me, the Cardinals being as good as they were during that time, despite the Yadier Molina and all the things, all the Adam Wainwright and all the things we know, being in St. Louis during that time, watching those Cardinals teams who won in 11, they made the LCS in 12, made the World Series again in 13, lost in the LCS in 14. Those were some prime Cardinal years, and very, very fun years to be a baseball fan. And similar to the Braves sort of being on TBS for all those years, I got this appreciation for the Cardinals, who at least until the 60s were the westmost baseball team.
Right.
And so out in that part of the world, that was who everyone gravitated to.
Now you're younger than I am. Yeah. I'm 46.
Right.
So how old are you?
33.
Okay, so you don't remember that the Mets and Cardinals, forget 2006, in the 80s when I was growing up, that was the team that I hated. And people would be like, oh, how could you ever root for the Braves? And I did legitimately root for the Braves from, let's say, 91, 92, through about 95 or so. Then I started to get back into the Mets.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, I was a young Mets fan.
Because they won in 95.
Yeah, exactly. That was kind of like, okay, well, I saw them win, and now let me move on. Although I rooted for them in the 96 World Series and 99 against the Yankees.
Sure.
But anyway, I had my grandfather passed away in 93, unfortunately. Last day of the baseball season, ironically enough, where the Braves won that division from the Giants with winning 104 games, something like that. Came down to the last day of the year. Braves won. He passed away on that day. They got in the postseason. They ended up losing to the Phillies in the NLCS. Anyway, point is, I got... In the 80s, when I was a young Mets fan and they won in 86, the Cardinals were the team to beat, whether it's 85, 87.
Right.
The Cardinals, there was a nasty rivalry there. So it predated to me any hate that I may have had with the Braves, and you're too young to really experience that.
Exactly. So, but that begs an interesting question too, which is, do you have 86 memories? Or
I do, but I think a lot of them, I have some that I can remember in my mind's eye. And I remember, like, my mother would cut out the articles from the newspaper, and I had them all over my walls, like
Yeah.
wallpaper, all different articles from 86, 87, whatever. So I remember I was like 6 years old. I turned 7 in September of 86. So I was young enough
It's
to
a
have a
little
little
young.
memory, but then I've
Yeah.
watched like the 86 A Year to Remember video a million times over. So a lot of it maybe is from that. But yes, I remember it minimally.
Right. I was 8 when the Mets and Yankees played each other in 2000.
Right. Okay.
That was my beginning of, okay, this is what I'm going to be obsessed with for the
Right.
for the rest
Okay.
of my life. So that's and who was your guy growing up? Who was your guy on the Mets growing up?
I mean, as a kid, I loved everybody. Doc was my guy.
Yeah.
Daryl. I loved Gary Carter. Probably those three. And then I loved Greg Jeffries in 1988,
Oh, interesting.
89. He was the young rookie phenom. So I was always, I don't know why I got behind the young guys. Even Griffey Jr. back then, like any of the hyped young players. Yeah, Piazza in the 2000, after Piazza got traded for in 98, like he became my guy then. So, but as a young kid, probably Doc, Daryl, Carter were probably my three
Got
favorite.
it. Yeah, Piazza was my guy.
Okay.
Like the in 2000, well, Benny Agbayani, that was like
Yeah,
a big,
okay.
that was a big fan favorite
Yeah.
back in the day. Yeah, Piazza was definitely my first real guy.
Now, you remember more in 2000 or when he first got traded?
2000.
Okay.
98, I wasn't quite. I wasn't there for Mike Francesa getting Mike Piazza over to the Mets.
So I also remember what I was telling you, like when I kind of transitioned back to being a diehard Met fan and being old enough to go to the games, Jason Isringhausen was a huge thing. I loved him in 1995 in Generation K,
Yep.
which if you don't know about the history.
I do, of course, yeah.
And then Ray Ordonez,
Yep.
excellent defensive play. So each generation, I guess, along the way, I've had different favorite guys. But once they got Piazza, that just took them to a whole new level.
Yeah, it really did. He I'm about to ask you your
Mm-hmm.
Mount Rushmore of Mets moments. My number one Mets moment
Yeah.
is Mike Piazza on the game after 9/11.
Okay.
That was the moment.
Were you there?
I wasn't there.
Okay.
I'll tell you where I was there was the no-hitter. It was Johan's no-hitter.
Oh, okay,
Which
yeah. Against your Cardinals.
which is why I was there.
Yeah.
Which was in 2012.
Ah,
So
okay.
any game that the Mets and Cardinals were playing between 2010, 2014, I was there. So not a lot of people can say they were at that no-hitter. I was there watching.
Yeah, I gave tickets away for that one because I had to work. It was a Friday night, if I'm not mistaken.
That sounds right.
Yeah.
I do think it was a Friday night, June 1st. Incredible. I get chills now just thinking about it.
And you were rooting for the Mets, just to be clear.
Yes,
Okay.
I was rooting for the Mets. My buddy has great footage of me at the final out. Man, I still can't believe that happened. What is your Mount Rushmore of Mets fan moments? Can either be when you were at the game, watching on TV.
I'm going to give you just ones that I was there for.
Okay,
And I'm not going to give you any particular order.
that's fine.
1996 opening day, Ray Ordonez from his knees against the Cardinals
Yes.
throughout Royce Clayton at home plate.
I know the play.
It's meaningful for me. First of all, it was a special play. Meaningful for me because I was there with my father, who's not a big sports fan, but he took me at the time, and one of my other buddies, and we were freezing, and it was opening day, and it was the beginning of me going to like 18 straight opening days. So that's a fond memory that I have. Just the opening day was always special. The orange and blue, the balloons, it had that opening day feel to it. But that's like a minuscule moment in compared to maybe some of the other ones on a higher
Sure.
level of game. But that's up there. You'd have to put 2000 Timo Perez catching the final out against the Cardinals to put the Mets into the World Series.
Yep.
Literally, Upper Deck was rocking
Yeah.
at Shea Stadium, and I can remember that. So there's two. I was at the Piazza 9/11 game.
Oh, you were.
But I choose to put that in a different category.
Understandable.
Because it was so eerie, the whole feel of everything that was going on before that. Going to Citi Field or Shea Stadium that day and seeing the barricades up and missing signs everywhere, it's a different kind of goosebumps. And then he hit that home run and it just felt normal to cheer and yell, but it was a surreal experience that I would separate from any kind of sports fandom.
That's a really interesting comment because I was 10 at that time. So I was old enough. I certainly remember 9/11, but I wasn't quite of the age where it was probably affecting me emotionally as I feel like it might have been if you were older and really understood what was going on. I think at the time I saw it as this incredible baseball game and this incredible moment that even though I knew was in the context of a very sad event happening, I didn't personally know anyone that
Yeah.
that died that day. It was just one of those. It was one of those really special moments as a very young kid that for me I was like, oh, this baseball thing is it's bigger than just the game.
Right. Understood.
I think that's why it stands out.
I would always, because people would ask, like, oh, your favorite Piazza home runs. And a
Yeah.
lot of people have that as number one. And
Yeah.
I think, like, if I rank that anything less than number one,
You're a monster.
yeah, exactly.
Right, right.
So I always have it just separate because there'll never be another home run in the sport.
Totally
as
fair.
meaningful as that in the big picture.
Totally fair.
But as it pertains to the Mets' success, I think he's had, a bunch of meaningful home runs. Matt Franco, you're probably too young to remember the Matt Franco game.
I know
but
the game,
It was
yeah.
the first time, I think it was 1999. It was the first time the Mets had taken 2 out of 3 from the Yankees.
Right.
And when he got that base hit off from Mariano Rivera, that was just euphoria for
Yeah.
me. Even a regular season game was a great back and forth game. I'd probably put that up there. Tough to give you just 4. And again, that's why I'm limiting it to games that I was at. I would probably put the Todd Pratt home run. Who the hell was it? Matt Manti that he hit it off of when Steve Finley went back. Steve Finley went back to the fence. I was sitting in the I was sitting in the Blues last row of loge,
Right.
which were discounted seats because they had a obstructed view. So I was remember looking under it and seeing him go back to see, and then again euphoria, clinching series wins. Especially for the Mets. It's not like the Yankees that are doing it every year.
Right.
So those are I've been fortunate to in those years go to a bunch of games. Even the Harvey game in 2015, even though they lost Game 5, I remember being there in the World Series.
I was at that game.
Yeah, big deal. David Wright hitting on. There's a lot, but the ones I gave you probably most meaningful to me.
Game 5 of in the 15 World Series,
Yeah.
I went to Game 3 and to Game 5. The right home run in Game 3 definitely sticks out as a Mount
Right.
Rushmore
I don't even
moment.
remember Game 4, oddly enough. Oh, that was the
That was
Lucas
Daniel
Duda.
Murphy.
Yeah. Okay.
First Daniel Murphy and then
Right,
Lucas Duda.
right, okay.
Which you couldn't help but think of the other day when
Yeah.
the poor guy threw that ball on the Phillies.
Yeah, I
right?
know.
was
Forget his name, but
Yeah. The Matt Harvey game, that still really bothers me. 10 years later, that's still everything. By the way, Matt Harvey, I'm pretty sure works in this building.
Really?
I haven't seen him,
Oh, okay.
but he works.
You should get him in here. What are you doing with me? You should be tracking down Harvey.
He works for a company who is in this building.
Oh, okay.
And so I have never seen him, but I keep my eyes out for him a lot.
Okay. I've met him before at SNY. I don't know, I want to say once or twice he was in there, and I told him, like, dude, you're the man. I loved you, and he was one of my favorites. But I think if I ran into him in the lobby or something like that, he I don't know if he'd remember me.
I mean, is there a more bizarre? I can't think of a more bizarre character in the Mets history, in terms of how high they went and how far they fell so quickly.
How quickly? Yeah, I know. Well, I mean, he got hurt. I mean, I know that there were some other issues at play with Harvey, but
Yeah.
the thoracic outlet syndrome completely derailed his
Yeah.
career. And that's what's weird, even seeing him when I did last year or 2 years ago at SNY. It's like, he should still be out there. He shouldn't be hanging out with us. He should still
No.
be out there pitching. So, but man, at his peak, you asked me like Mets moments. I'll never forget watching his first pitch, his first game
In Atlanta?
Arizona.
Oh, it was Arizona,
It was in
right.
Arizona, his debut, and I remember thinking, who the hell is this guy? Like
Yeah.
the hype, he overdid whatever hype there might have been. There was more hype maybe around Rafael Montero or Zach Wheeler. Harvey kind of flew under the radar, and then immediately was like, this he's a bull.
Oh my God. The day that I remember is the double header that they had in Atlanta.
Yeah, I remember
Harvey
that.
and
Wheeler, yes.
I was interning at SNY that summer.
Oh,
After
okay.
I interned at the Fan, I interned at SNY the following summer.
Do you remember me from being there or no?
No.
Because I was there, definitely.
I was working in the digital department.
Okay, I got it.
I was writing for Mets blog.
Okay.
And the first game they had me cover, I volunteered because no one wanted to do it, was a West Coast game against the Giants.
Nobody wants to stay up that
No one
late.
wanted to
Yeah.
stay up for late. So the first game I'm doing, and it was a 10 o'clock game. It went 15 innings. The game ended at like 4 o'clock in the morning.
Brutal.
Yeah. I did the one the next night too. But that was, that was a fun summer. Not as fun as interning for WFAN, which I want to get to next. So you host the midday show. I guess what I'm curious to ask you is, do you still think of what you do every day as a radio show per se first? Or do you think I guess what I'm saying is, you're in the fall book now, you're looking at the numbers against ESPN and so forth. I was thinking today, if I'm running WFAN, I'm thinking about how our content is performing against Barstool, against, all these other sort of media companies that are taking a digital first approach. Like I feel like the Fan has been taking as of late.
Yeah.
I'm curious your thoughts on that.
I don't really think in depth about that, especially going into a show. Maybe afterward, I'll think about it. Maybe in my off time, I'll think about it. The world has completely changed. Like you asked about the numbers, I couldn't even tell you what they are.
Right.
So I'm not talking. Maybe I should talk about the boss with that. I don't think it's as relevant as it once was. I just try to make sure I'm having fun while entertaining the listener or the viewer, however you're consuming the product, whether it's on the Odyssey app, whether it's on YouTube, whether it's on digital, on social media, whether it's on the radio. So I don't necessarily go in saying, well, I'm doing a radio show today. I go in with just trying to give the best that I have and entertain and have fun in the best way that I possibly could.
What does prep for a show look like on a daily basis? And I'm going to bucket that into two categories. One category where there's clearly a big game. What was the big game last night? Or I don't even know.
Well, Game 7 of the ALCS.
Right.
I mean,
right. There's clearly a big ticket item, and then on days when there's not clearly a big ticket item.
Yeah, I think let's just say for Game 7 of the ALCS really didn't do much for us because we're doing local stuff.
Right.
So when you watch the Giants on Sunday, immediately you know what that game. Good chance on Monday, no matter what you're talking about that game. The way that went, it was like no doubt about it, 4 hours easy, probably into Tuesday, which we did. We carried it over into Tuesday as well. So sometimes it's just that simple. Maybe the Knicks, certainly Knicks playoff game, maybe even the Knicks opening night or a big Met or Yankee game. You know that, okay, well, the next day we're going to react to that. But that used to be the norm almost every night for sports talk radio. And now it's not. It is bigger picture issues. So I think it's finding the talking point from within the game or the team's storylines and just creating conversation about that.
And do you listen to Boomer and Gio when you're coming in?
Yeah, I do. Just to get well, first of all, I like those guys. And second of all, to just get a feel of what they're talking about. Sometimes I've found over the years where it could be paralyzing to listen to everybody else.
Sure.
Because that, no matter what, it's going to let their opinions impact yours. I want to go in fresh. So I already have my mind made up, but I'd be curious sometimes just to listen to what they're talking about and be like, okay, I like that, or oh, I don't like this, or I would go there, I wouldn't do that. Get Jerry's updates just to make sure maybe I hear a soundbite that I wasn't aware of. So it is a form of prep for me to listen to them on the way in.
And I guess my further question is, would you ever hear something on the morning show and be like, oh, Boomer talked about that, so I'm not gonna go in that direction?
No. More so it would be that, oh, I like that they talked about this, and I could either react to them saying it, which if it's in a different way than I think, or if it's a similar thought that I have, I would just go about what I would normally say, even if it is somewhat repetitive.
Right.
But I would never say, oh, they talked about that, so I'm not going to do that.
Got it.
You know what I mean? When I say like, oh, I don't like that, meaning like if they talk about something that I have no interest in, which they could do, or we could do that and they would have no interest in it. But certain things I'm like, okay, that's a good angle that I wasn't thinking of. Let me play off of them.
Do you see what you and I've talked about before about Boomer and Gio doing the live shows?
Yeah.
Is doing something like that a next iteration for you and BT or whatever?
I think first you have to build a successful show. So there are learning processes along the way, which I was not even familiar with. Like before I was even on the air, it was always like, oh, I think I could do this. I could do this. Not even I think. I know I could do this. I know I could do this. And then you actually get a chance to do it on the air and it's like, oh, this is a lot more difficult than I thought. And each step of the way, like, okay, so you could do a show. And then I feel like I mastered doing a show. And then it's, well, here are 5 shows a week. And it's like, oh, crap. Well, mastering 5 shows a week is a lot different than doing just 1 a week. So the evolution of that, and then doing a regular overnight show. Okay, this is my space, my canvas for 5 nights a week. And then you feel like, okay, well, you mastered that, as well as you can, whatever. And then you get an opportunity to do the middays. And now it's a whole different ball game where there's different reads involved and different elements and a partner involved. And now you're trying to master that. So, and that could take some time. And then we've had different bosses along the way with different theories. So I still feel like we're in the process of trying to, I think we've done a better job of that in the last 6 months, maybe to a year, trying to get our show as good as it can be. Only from there, then, in my opinion, can you start to think about building out. Like Boomer and Gio have been successful for a long time. It was Boomer and Carton before that successful. Gio came in, did a great job taking it to another level, and they built it to the live shows, but that's the premier show. So to get to that level,
Sure.
there's still work to be done.
Are there any elements of doing the overnights that you miss?
100%. Yeah. I miss that it was my, I felt it was my space, not to knock BT or any partner,
Sure,
but
sure.
when you're in control, you're in total control. And it was me and the listener and the caller. And I can't tell you how many times I get from people like, oh man, I miss you on the overnight, just because they can't listen from 10 to 1 or 10 to 2 when people are working during the course of the day or whatever. Maybe they don't have time to go back on the Odyssey app and listen. So there's a special bond that takes place during those hours that, even though I only did it for a couple of years, it was something that I was familiar with from Beningo or Steve Summers doing it for years. So I miss that intimacy that you would have with the listener and the audience, the callers or whatever, who's up at that hour with you.
I mean, that's you mentioned being in the midday time slot when a lot of people like myself are often in meetings and doing things, but that's where the YouTube of it has been so significant for me anyway. I mean, not that you asked, but I'll give you my WFAN sort of listening pattern throughout the day, which is I'll wake up, Boomer and Gio usually the first hour or two, get up, go to work, all the things, and then I'll usually catch your first segment, and then I'll need to tap out for a meeting, but inevitably at 2, 3, 4 in the afternoon, sometimes while you're still on the air, sometimes maybe you finish the show, that's when I can pull up YouTube. And that is a lot more intuitive and instinctive for me to pull up on my computer and just sort of put in a spot and let that play, as opposed to fiddling around with my phone. For whatever reason, that has proven to be a more sustainable way of keeping up with you guys every day.
And we appreciate that. And I think some of the numbers are good. Remember, it's an evolving business. So I think everybody is still learning. A part of me thinks, okay, well, I used to do a show one way and be like, here's the main topic for 4 hours. Or you could even have the other thought process of, let's do one thing at 10 o'clock, one thing at 11 o'clock, something different at 12. But then if the thought process is the majority of people aren't listening for 4 hours,
right,
you should be doing the big topic more often. But in a world where people can go listen to it on demand as much as they want, why would you want to listen to the same thing for 4 hours? If the Giants isn't your thing, for example, and we're doing 4 hours on the Giants, there's got to be something sprinkled in that can maybe catch your attention, whether it's a fun segment, offbeat segment, a baseball segment. So I'm still trying to learn what the audience wants throughout the course of a 4-hour show.
I've thought a lot about that because every morning I'll hear, Jerry give the same update each hour. But he does a really good job at, mixing in little things for new audiences, for someone that hasn't been listening. There also is just something, though, about the sound of the fan. Like, it's okay if it's a little repetitive. If, you
get callers calling in, bring a different perspective.
Yeah. There's something about the sound of it that has, I often sleep with the fan on. It's comforting. It's comforting.
Yeah.
And it's okay if it's a little repetitive sometimes.
Right. Okay, that's great that you think that. I'm sure other people maybe think the same thing. But what if there are people who don't?
Right.
Also, if you're splicing it up to have digital content from the show, which is a part of it.
Yeah.
Okay, so they talked about the Giants for 4 hours. Well, you're not going to put 4 different clips on the Giants out there. So there's got to be different elements throughout the course of the show. The thing that I guess frustrates me, and it's nobody's fault, it's just the reality of it. There are times where, okay, I'll hit the open and we feel like we do a good open, strong open, that was the right lead. And then there'll be a really funny segment or a fun thing that we're messing around with at, let's say, 11:20. And maybe that gets lost from somebody who's in a meeting or whatever. And when they come back, they miss that. And they miss the fun parts of the show because, people can't listen for 4 straight hours.
It's tough. Listening to all the fan content that I've wanted to all the years has not been easy, but I've persevered. That's a good segue to I would love your WFAN Mount Rushmore of hosts. I suppose it could be executives or bosses too. If you
Yeah,
want
I'm
to
gonna go
throw those.
just host.
Okay.
I'm just trying to think of. I feel like I've done this before, and I want to remain consistent to
Sure.
it. I think. Well, first of all, Mike and Chris are on there. Like that's a non-starter for me.
As a combo or
Mike,
separate.
Mike, Chris.
Oh, interesting.
I mean, there are some. I think I might have talked about this with Carton actually, and where we were doing this, and you could say have Mike and the Mad Dog on there.
Oh, I think you know what's funny. You did have that, and that's where I'm realizing.
We had this on the air, so I hope I am consistent with who I'm selecting here, but I would personally have Mike and the Mad Dog on there separately. You want to put them together, that opens up an avenue to get somebody else in there. But I love those two guys. I would put, and I love those two guys personally, and I like that's who I grew up listening to. So
Right.
to me, nobody can.
Those were your guys.
I mean, if
WFAN
you're going based off of the success, like probably Imus has to be on there, whatever. I would not put him on there. I just was not an Imus fan. I understand the importance to the fan. I'm giving you my
Yeah.
4 guys. So I would go Mike and Chris. I think out of respect to Boomer, even though I was never been a morning show guy, he's done it so successfully, so long that he's got to be on there. Like he surpasses Imus in my mind. I know Imus was the original guy bringing them on, but I have to put Boomer on there. And then to me, it comes down to either Summers or Benigno. And while I feel like I'm more of a Joe type, Steve Summers is so unique, and I'm reading his book currently, so I'm in the middle of that.
Any good nuggets?
It's great. There's a couple that I have notes of. I'm actually having him. Shoot, I forgot to promote this on my radio show today. He's coming in studio tomorrow. I totally forgot to promote that.
Oh. Well, you can promote it here.
Yeah,
It'll get the exact same
when is this
amount
being
of
aired?
attention.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I just feel bad that. But anyway, I think Steve. I think I have to put Steve. Put it this way: there have been endless amounts of hosts who have done monologues the way that I do it, or Joe B has done it, or Mike and the Mad Dog have done it, or the others. There's only one who's done it the way Steve Summers has done it. So because of his uniqueness, his humor, his kindness, his rapport with the callers, his longevity, he was an original. I would go Steve, Mike, Mad Dog, Boomer.
That's a good list.
What about yours?
My list is a little different. I did grow up in a sports household, but I also really grew up in a political household.
So you have Imus on there.
So I grew up listening to Don Imus.
Okay.
I grew up listening to Mike and the Mad Dog, as we've already discussed our difference in age. It was more when I was in the back of the car, hearing it more peripherally, as opposed to engaging. I as much as I do, and I remember where I was when Mike and the Mad Dog broke up and all those things. It wasn't as much a part of my DNA. That said, because of the run that Mike did afterwards, I would personally put Mike on Mount Rushmore.
Not Dog.
But not Dog.
So, okay, I like it. Imus and Mike. I can see an argument for that, yes.
Imus and Mike. I completely agree with you on Steve Summers.
Okay.
Steve Summers has
Now's where it gets interesting.
My 4th pick would be Craig Carton.
See, I knew there was something there. How about that? So over Boomer. I mean, you're tying in his success in the mornings and then when he came back in the afternoons.
Here's the thing about Craig. Craig is a Jewish kid from New Rochelle, just basically like me. A Jewish kid from the next town over. He's a narp. He's not. I'm no athlete.
Right.
You know.
And not a bad golfer.
I'm not a bad golfer, but I'm no Boomer.
Right.
When Imus got fired and Boomer and Carton came on, and Craig was, at least at the start, and for most of those 10, the real personality of the show, that was for me a very revolutionary moment in my upbringing. I remember my dad, who is a very smart, generally fun person to be around. He would say Craig Carton is too sophomoric for him, too beneath him. I thought it was the funniest thing that I had ever heard.
Right.
And I really was obsessed. And Boomer and Carton together were an enormously big part of my life for 4 hours a day for 10 years. And then obviously what happened. And that was a big moment. And I love Boomer and Gio and I am so thrilled that they've been able to not only capture what I've been on. But to your point, I think go to different levels and add different elements into the show that I think are really fun and interesting. And I completely agree with your comment that Boomer, especially at, nearly 20 years in the morning spot, his record speaks for itself.
Correct.
But if I'm thinking about WFAN personalities that were really core parts of me becoming, as big sports radio fan as I am, all those things, I gotta put Mr. Carter.
Fair enough. It's your Mount Rushmore. You can do whatever you want.
So,
I do want to just say that to me, it was more of a talk show hosting. Like, I love Susan Waldman. And you could argue that there's been nobody that's been more important to the station. First voice ever heard on the station, female voice, doing the Yankee stuff. So if there were a different category, Susan would be on my Mount Rushmore as well. But I'm just going based off of talk show host who did a show, for me growing up.
Interesting. But yeah, Sal, thank you so much for coming here today. So great getting the chance to chat with you, hear a little bit about your Mount Rushmores, which I always love hearing about. And yeah.
I appreciate you having me. I just got to be honest. Like, I'm still confused as to why you wanted me to talk sports on your podcast, which, like, does your company have anything to do with sports?
Oh, is that not obvious? Oh, let me, okay.
Yeah.
Well, this is worth getting into a discussion.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, I don't know if you know what we do here. Probably not.
No idea.
Yeah.
I know you're a nice guy.
Yeah.
I know you're a PR guy.
Yeah.
We're friendly. We played golf. You're a big Met fan.
Absolutely.
I have no idea what you do.
Totally fair.
Yeah.
Okay. So I barely know what I do either. we do PR, which means getting media,
Right.
creating a lot of content, doing websites and things like that for a lot of different kinds of companies. We work for GE and Accenture and a bunch of companies that, you're right, have nothing to do
GE,
with
I need my
sports.
washing machine fixed, so get them on the horn.
Yeah, okay. I'll give GE a call. There is a big sports part of what we do. You and I met through my work with the Mets. We work with Omaha Productions. We work with we work with Colin Coward's company at the Volume. Sports is a big part of what we do. More generally, this podcast is about finding and having conversations with the most interesting people in our world, in our network, at the intersection of business, reputation, and culture. If there's anything that's part of, we're a New York firm, if there's anything that's part of New York culture, it's WFAN. People know us as a New York corporate communications firm, and sports is, a part of what we do. It's not the only part of what we do, but we got a lot of sports fans in here. And even though the average person watching this, there'll be a few fan listeners, maybe not a ton,
Right.
but there's anyone who would see this would certainly know the aura of WFAN, what it means in the context of New York culture. And that's what we're doing with this podcast.
Love it. Well, happy to be a part of it. I appreciate you inviting me.
Thanks for coming.